Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Fall 2022 New Jersey Film Festival Filmmaker Q&A series. And we have a wonderful filmmaker who's actually in Japan. And so it's evening for him, it's morning for me, and I'll introduce you to him in a second. But I wanted to just let you all know that our 41st annual New Jersey Film Festival, which is a biannual festival that takes place in the fall and in the spring, the fall version will start on September 9th and run on select Friday, Saturday, and Sunday days. Because we're a hybrid festival, there are online programs for all of the films, online screenings for all of the films, and there'll be select in-person screenings as well. And so they'll be on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for 24 hours on their show date. And then there will be 7 p.m. in-person screenings for some of the screenings. Today we have Alistair Evans, and he's in Japan. Where in Japan are you, Alistair?
I'm in Tokyo, about 10 minutes west of the center.
Wow, well, I'll ask you about how you ended up there, because I know your film is set in Vietnam. We'll be screening A Crack in the Mountain, which is a kind of environmental documentary that our judges absolutely adored. And it will be playing all day on September 11th. And I'll show everybody how to get tickets towards the end of the Q&A, but I wanted to, just tell us, Alastair, how did you end up making this film? I mean, it's set in Vietnam, you're in Japan, and I guess you're from the UK. So
yeah,
tell us a little bit about all those things and how it all came together that you made this movie.
sure. I don't know if people have seen the trailer, but the film is about a cave in Vietnam called Son Doong cave. And usually when people hear the word cave, they roll their eyes and go, well, that doesn't sound very interesting. Caves are usually dark, dingy, inhospitable, pretty horrible places, to be honest. But I mean, really, to call Son Doong a cave is to do it a disservice, because it is Al, you've seen the film. I mean, it's a underground kingdom. There's no other way to describe it. I mean, this is a cave with, a jungle, a lake, its own ecosystem. I mean, it's like Avatar. There's no other way to describe it. So, I mean, it is. I mean, I've been very lucky to travel very extensively all over the world, and it is by far and away the most extraordinary place I've ever been to by far, and very few people know about this place. So I mean, it's a real privilege to bring it to the screen, because it's been featured in some nature documentaries over the years. Nat Geo did something in 2011, but this is, as far as I'm aware, this is the first feature documentary to really tell the full story, because the story is more than just a nature documentary. It really is primarily about how the discovery of this cave, which was only discovered in 2009, impacted the local community. And that's really where the story is. And it does get a little bit dark in places, but I mean, there is a lot of light there as well.
Yes, I mean, I think it's one of the most beautiful places, and I thought you did a masterful job in shooting the cave. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about the process. I mean, how long did it take you to shoot the film? And did you have to go repeatedly to the site? Did you actually go through the whole cave? Because I know it's quite long. And to talk about the process as well. I mean, how long did it take you to make this film?
Sure. I mean, I first went there in 2017 as on a tourist trip, and actually all the trips I did was as a tourist, and I actually ended up going back 8 times over the course of 5 years. So wow. 2017 was the first year, and then some years I do 2 trips. And then also I went to Hang En Cave, which is the 3rd largest cave in the world, which is also just an amazing experience. This beautiful place with a lake, and it's just stunning. I went there on separate trips as well. But really, the project went through various iterations. I mean, in 2017, it was, I mean, when I first went there, I was just really struck, emotionally by this place, because I mean, it really is, it's not mentioned explicitly in the film, but I mean, it really is a very spiritual place, certainly in my mind. I mean, it really, just how pristine and just how, just untouched it is. I mean, it really is, quite moving to be in there. And I part of me thinks that maybe I unconsciously invented a way to go back 8 times. And that's what the film is. But it really went through various iterations. The film, I mean, back in 2017, I thought I'd put together a 30-minute YouTube video, and then when I went back the next year, I I thought I was going to do some sort of triptych, a 40-minute experience describing the cave through the experience of one of the guests, one of the porters, one of the Vietnamese porters who take you in, and also one of the caving experts. But it was really only in 2019 when I discovered the story of the town and this place called Phong Nha, which has just been blighted by poverty, extreme poverty over many, many decades. And then this jewel this pot of gold was just discovered, and just all the complications and issues and complexities that threw up. I knew then I had a human story, and and I wasn't interested in making a nature documentary. I mean, that's certainly part of it, but that's not terribly interesting to me. What's interesting is how it impacts the local community. And it was when I discovered that story, then I knew I had sort of a larger piece.
I think the way that you just reiterated the evolution of the film is kind of the way that the film works, because at first you have this kind of awesome perspective on this place as you're walking with a series of cave explorers, and then we do focus on one of the porters, and then we do focus on guides as well, and then we do end up in the town. But there's a fifth component, I think, which is where we have individuals in Vietnam who wanted to preserve the beauty of this place because the town and the country started to see dollar signs with this wonderful space and wanted to, well, I guess you should tell us. I mean, how does it evolve? I mean, how is there this kind of movement to preserve the cave?
Yeah, I mean, in 2000, so I mean, as I said, in 2018, I was thinking about this triptych, and it didn't involve the political element, which is the preservation of the cave. And I was aware of that, but for some perverse reason, which I can't remember, different mindset, I wasn't particularly interested in that at that point, which is curious. And I've tried to excavate why I wasn't particularly interested in that at that moment, but that's old history. But it was in August 2018 I discovered a TED talk by an activist who founded a movement called Save Son Doong. And I would encourage anyone to just Google TEDx Hanoi Save Son Doong for an experience of this. It's covered briefly in the film. There's sort of a minute or two, and the TED talk's 15 minutes long, but it is an incredible TED talk. And I remember watching this thing and just seeing how how invested Hung was in saving this place in her country, which she cared deeply about. And I emailed her the next day, and a week later I was in Ho Chi Minh filming her. So yeah, I mean, it's Vietnam has, as the film says, it doesn't have a great track record for preserving places of natural beauty just in general, but Son Doong was quite an interesting differential, if you will, because it is so extraordinary that, I mean, the government was quite surprised when the people essentially revolted through an online petition and said, no, we don't want any. I'm trying to steer away from what actually happens, but any construction, if you will, in the cave. But then, of course, as you say, dollar signs are, well, they are very alluring to a lot of people, especially when you've been living in poverty for 30 years. And that's where the inherent tension is in the film. Like, where is that balance point between environmental preservation, conservation, and sort of economic growth? And that's something which I feel as though the world is grappling with right now. And this is sort of just one instance of that.
And I think you do a masterful job finding a balance, because first of all, she's amazing. Hong, is that her name? Hong is the way you.
That's how I say it. But
right.
She laughs at me. She says I just destroy her name every time.
Yes, I know. So, her name is so. I didn't even want to go there because I figured, because it's so amazingly long and complex, that I didn't want to butcher it. But she's an amazing person, and I think that you do a great job detailing how she got involved and the ramifications of going through that, and how the backlash from the government was swift in many instances, but that nonetheless the people found common ground in wanting to preserve the beautiful cave. So I mean, I think the way that you posited that also as you move through the film is really masterfully done. So I'm glad that you moved away from the kind of triptych idea, because I think doing it as a feature, it does service to the place because of its awesomeness. And as I moved through your film, I kept on picking up information that, made the film very compelling. Because a lot of the times documentaries, they kind of do everything in the first 10 minutes and the rest is just kind of very redundant. I didn't find that at all in your film. I found it very, it's like going through the cave, right? As you're making your way, all of a sudden you're, waist high in water and you're trying to make it through, and other moments, which I don't know if I could, even though the cave has these huge ceilings in many of the areas. I'll tell you my story about how we went to the peaks in England. And there's this very famous cave where they have bluestone. And my wife wanted to really go check this out. So we went into the space and we thought, oh, wow, this isn't too bad, because we both suffer from claustrophobia. And then the guide said, okay, now we're going through this little tiny hole and going 200 steps down. We both looked at each other and said, there's no way we could do that. But I think with this cave, because of the large cathedral-like ceilings, that it probably would have been something that would have been different. And I think
it's well, I mean, I wouldn't say different. I would say just a different. It's a different planet. I mean, the film. There's a moment in the film where Jonathan Drake, who's one of the subjects in the film,
Right.
talks about how more people have gone up Everest than visited Son Doong. That's obviously changed in subsequent years. But even despite that, thousands of people have been through, not millions, only thousands. And there's I'm quite close with the cavers, and there's never ever been a single experience of claustrophobia in Son Doong. It's impossible. I mean, I don't know what the reverse is. But I mean, it is like being in a cathedral. I mean, it's one of those things which we can talk about, but really people have to see it, and you can either visit it or, ideally see it on a big screen, because I mean, it is, it's one of those things where I can blow it up and I can talk it up and, I can raise expectations, but I'm very confident it will never, people will still find it amazing, because I mean, it is truly an extraordinary place, regardless of whether it's my film or someone else's film. Son Doong as a place is just incredible.
Yeah. And I think as I was watching some of the people that have gone in, they talk about how it's otherworldly, not from this planet. And I think that probably is justifiable. But you also talk about the Thai, the Thai cave that had been flooded. That's definitely a place I could never go to for sure. That I think is definitely claustrophobic.
I mean, that's an interesting, it's sort of an interesting moment in the film, and it's pertinent you raise it, because of course 13 Lives have just come out, the Ron Howard film, and we had The Rescue last year, and there was actually a larger sequence to the film which was cut, which interrogates why caves as a place generally in the press are featured as, dark claustrophobic places where a rescue needs to take place. I mean, there's very few examples of cinematic examples where a cave is featured as something beautiful and just this otherworldly, holy place. And as you know, there is a very brief 40-second sequence of the film which just touches on that, caves are always featured in the press when there's a rescue, and there's no rescue in this film, and it's hopefully just as compelling.
Yeah. I mean, you think of the Bat Cave in Batman, and even that has kind of negative context. So, but I like the fact that you did that, because it's unfortunately, tied to the other world, and it's not necessarily a positive world, but it's part of our planet. It's untouched place for the most part. And like you said, only thousands of people have been here, and that's only probably increased recently because of the attention that has, surrounded it. Because it's far away, it's hard to get to. Is that why it hasn't been visited for?
No, I mean, that's a curiosity, and again, something which has been cut from the film. But certainly in 2009, I mean, my thought has always been that if a new highest mountain was discovered, which obviously is not going to happen, but hypothetically, if it did, it would be on the front page of every single newspaper in the world. And I pulled the cuttings from when Son Doong was discovered in 2009, and the London Times had a 47 word byline on page 27. There was nothing in the US press, and there was something in the Mirror in the UK, but really it wasn't covered at all, which is a curiosity. And again, the film sort of delved into that in a now subsequently cut scene. But I mean, in my mind, there is a profound the difference between a heroic mountaineer standing on top of a peak with this white expanse out, as opposed to this dirty caver scrabbling around in the mud, is something which, we draw stereotypes, and that is the stereotype which is drawn. But I mean, what I keep on saying is that Son Doong is very much not that. I mean, as I said, there's a lot of greenery in there, and it's, you know, it's the most extraordinary place I've ever been to.
I like the fact that you use the King Kong clip in your film too. That kind of gives an understanding of this Kong Island, which nobody knows where it is, and it's got that same kind of greenery that you see surrounding him too.
I'm pleased you're saying that, Al, because I'm currently negotiating with Warner Brothers to upgrade the license from film festivals to something else, and it's expensive. So
yes, I can imagine that was going to be.
But it's the great thing about being the producer and the director on the film is I've got no one to answer to. So it will be in the final. It will be in the final piece, regardless of the cost.
That's great. I think it definitely adds to your film. And, you know, I know how expensive licensing some of these things can be, but if they see that it's for a good cause, that they perhaps will be more lenient. No, it's dollar signs for them too, I guess. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, tell me a little bit did you get drones in there to get the shots from up above? I mean, I was curious.
So I need to give credit to who I describe as my co-cinematographer, Ryan DeBoot, who actually only filmed, you know, 2% of the film. I mean, I shot 98% of it, but I wasn't allowed drones in the cave because I was a tourist on many of the trips, and they just don't allow drones in there. Certainly until 2021, after I've been back 8 times, and they said, yeah, okay. So there is one shot which I filmed of a drone in the cave, which you won't see. But there's one shot, and five seconds later, I crashed the thing because it's incredibly difficult flying drones in there. So I have to give a lot of credit to Ryan, who the majority of the drone footage in the cave is his, and he's filmed a lot in there. And as I said, I mean, he's only filmed, you know, 2 minutes of the film, and usually you'd sort of bury, you know, as someone in the rolling credits, but that footage is so important to the film. But I had to give him a top tier credit because it's
I mean,
it's very important.
There's so much drone footage now, but I think in your film it makes so much sense, and it gives you such a perspective on the space that I think you wouldn't get otherwise. And I think kudos to Brian for sure, and kudos to you for including it, because I think it makes the film much more powerful. But I guess the other thing I wanted to ask you is, since you did go back so many times, was there any interference from the government? Did they give you a hard time? Did they ask?
So I mean, the Oxalis Adventures, who is the company who run the cave, or rather, I wouldn't say run the cave. They've been given a license to organize tours in there. They were fully aware of what I was doing. Like at every step of the way, I communicated, and they actually made a making of documentary about my documentary, which I don't think is going to see the light of day for a number of reasons. But they were well aware of what's happening. The government, not so much. I mean, Vietnam is a communist country, and you know, but people go there as tourists, and they see one side of the country. But if you start to dig a little bit deeper, it is a country which has a huge amount of repression, and the film touches upon that very briefly. But I couldn't really go into much more detail, mainly because it wasn't really central to the story, but also for, you know, reasons of safety as well. So this is very much a guerrilla project, and it really did start off as an innocent YouTube documentary. I really didn't have grand aspirations, but just by following the thread and following the story, it just turned into a piece of journalism ultimately. And you know, regardless of what anyone says, I'm not going to apologize for that, because I mean, I feel as though it's an important story to be told, and there is a lot of facets to it. And yes, it does touch on political elements, but at the end of the day, it is a love letter to Phong Nha. When all is said and done, I mean, that is what it is. And I just hope that if and when any government officials in Vietnam do see it, they do see it for what it is. And, you know, it is, in my mind, the best advertisement you could possibly get for Phong Nha, because it's not an advertisement, you know, and every person I've spoken with, you know, in Q&As and after screenings, et cetera, want to visit this place. So, you know.
Absolutely. I think in many ways it is a love letter, and I think that comes through as you're watching the film, that the love that you have for this place. And that's why I was 8 times, 9 times going, shows for sure that you really like this place, and it transformed you. I mean, how did you come to become a filmmaker, and you know, how did you end up in Tokyo?
Oh, well, those
your background.
Yeah, of course. I mean, those are 2 very, very separate things. I mean, I've wanted to make films since I was 14 years old. I mean, this is all I've wanted to do. And I worked in after university, I worked in theatre and casting in London for a number of years, and I just got sick of people telling me what to do. At the end of the day, I'm not someone who takes orders particularly well. So I had a job lined up in casting in August 2009, and in April I went out to Japan for 3 months just as a working holiday, and then I just stayed, and now it's sort of 13 years later, and I basically spent the last 10 years of my life trying to construct a lifestyle which allows me to make films on my own terms, and it's been a very laborious process, and it's taken a lot of time and a lot of sacrifice and investment. But I'm at a point where I can make films which I want to make, not beholden to anyone else. And I'm hoping that this is just the start. We'll see. I mean, life has a way of dealing you bad hands, but I'm hoping in a position where this is just the first of many. So we'll see.
As a fellow filmmaker and as a fellow guerrilla filmmaker, I say more power to you. And it's really wonderful to be able to be in charge of your own work, and dealing with clients and producers and other people is not a pleasant thing. So I think if you can be in charge of your own work, usually you can tell that being unhindered, there's more beauty and more success in the project itself. Well, I wanted to just kind of share screen and show our audience how to be able to purchase tickets, since I wanted to do that. Let's see here. So, folks, when you're going to be going online to find out information about our festival, you'll go to njfilmfest.com, which is our home website page. And you click on current events, or you just kind of scroll down, you'll see Fall 2022 New Jersey Film Festival. In the past, everything would be here. There would be the schedule, there would be ways to find out where the screenings were. But as we've become a hybrid festival, because of COVID, we have opened up our festival online, because it's what saved us during the pandemic, because we could only do online screenings, and we've opened up to a new audience. So we want to make sure we don't lose that audience, and at the same time start up our in-person screenings again. The university has been generous in allowing us to do in-person screenings when the filmmaker is present. So we have a number of them that are only online. So what you would do is you would click on that red button, which would send you to our Eventive page. And this is the catalog page. There's a general page that I'll send you to, but here is the link for A Crack in the Mountain. And you would click on that and to get more information. And it gives you all the background on the film, a description that Alistair wrote that we included in the cast. And there will eventually be an introduction placed on here that Al had put together for us. But all you need to do is click pre-order now to buy tickets. So
we should point out that these things here are actually people. People aren't usually aware of the scale of the thing. These where my mouse is, I don't know if people can see it, but these are actually individuals and these are people. This is how big the place is.
Yeah. I mean, they're tiny, and that you can see these kind of cathedral vaults for sure. And I mean, here we can do a better thing. We go back to festival site, which is our welcome page, and here you can get a general overview of the festival. Driving directions if you're coming to the screenings, although A Crack in the Mountain is only online. Normally in the past, we would have had money to fly you out, but that money has dried up. And so if you want to get an overview, you click on schedule and you just kind of scroll down, and here's an unencumbered view of the same image. So you can get a kind of textual look for what we're offering as part of the festival and the screenings. If you go back to the same page, there's the film guide, which also allows you to get information on all the films individually. And of course, if you want to buy an all access pass, which gives you access to every film, it's $100. You can go to that page. I'm going to stop sharing so we can say goodbye, because we've run out of time. I try to keep these Q&As to about 30 minutes maximum, because the goal is to be able to entice people to come to the screening, since these Q&As are generated ahead of time. So I wanted to say thank you so much for sharing that time with us and providing us with so much wonderful information. There will be the opportunity to interact with Alastair after the screening as well. I'm working on that. So
Oh, great. Okay.
I'll tell you more information about that after we sign off. So please stay on after we say goodbye. But do you say konbawa as good evening in Japanese?
Well, that would be good evening.
Good evening.
Oyasuminasai would be good night.
Good night. Yes. Okay. Cool. Because I have this wonderful friend who's a sushi chef, and I've been taught all sorts of things, but the limitations are konnichiwa is to say hello, and then you say arigato for thank you. And there's so many other things that he taught me that I've forgotten. So
well, I mean, the more colloquial phrase would be matinee, which is like see you soon. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So thank you so much, Alastair. And I really appreciate you spending this time to do this Q&A. And folks, make sure you check out his film on September 11th at the New Jersey Film Festival. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks, Alastair. Thank you.
Thank you.